Notice I did not say go out and buy the thing. I did not say go out and dust off my credit card. Go out and practice my credit card swiping muscles. That is not what I'm doing. When you are trying to redecorate or refresh a space, one of the worst things that you can do first is to purchase. So put your credit card away and now focus on making a plan. We grew up with the phrase, home is where the heart is. But our culture has shifted, and now the message is, home should be Pinterest perfect. I'm calling BS on that message. Home, it's not about the stuff, it's about the story. And whether you know it or not, your home is a reflection of you and is already saying something. So what is it that you want it to say? Hey, I'm Danny, a former first grade teacher turned home decorator. Going from a dual income to a single income so I could stay home with my babies meant budget, like ramen eating, Goodwill shopping budget. And I learned a few things along the way, like how to bring big style to your home without breaking the bank. And I'm sharing it all with you. Tips, tricks, decor, and design advice so you can learn to tell your story with your style, where you can start living free from the Pinterest perfect trap and start living a life of intention. Welcome to Fig and Farm at Home, where we design happy living and where it doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. For me, there has been no better motivation to get home projects done than the invitation of a large gathering. Maybe it's Thanksgiving or you're hosting holidays. Maybe you're hosting a reunion for your college girlfriends. Whatever it is, having that event and that timeline can get the ball in action, can get the gears moving. And this has been true for me. My oldest son is graduating high school. And in just a couple weeks' time, we are going to be hosting his graduation party. And we're doing it at our home. Now, I've noticed as I've been getting other graduation notices in the mail, most of them are not happening at the graduate's home. They're happening somewhere else. And maybe they're smarter than I am. But I love my home. I delight in my home, and I want it to feel welcoming to those around me. And I understand that that isn't always the case for some of you. But I want to turn the tide. I am on a mission. If you don't know this, I am on a mission to help real moms with real homes and real budgets truly delight in their spaces, to look around and think, oh my gosh, this looks just like me. It is a reflection of my style. It is telling my story, and I did it. So friend, listen, if you don't have a big event on your heels, if you don't have a timeline, a deadline, but you do want a little bit of motivation and a whole heck of a lot of hand-holding, have you joined the Collective yet? The Collective is my monthly membership where I teach weekly design concepts that are broken down in digestible steps. That means they are not over your head, they are not using jargon that you can't understand, and they are actionable. You can literally take the lesson and apply it that day, that weekend, that week, if you want to, in your own home. But I digress just a little bit. Owen's graduation party has me motivated, and it has me ticking off the boxes of a few little projects around the home that have needed to be done for the past couple years, and one big project. And that's what I'm diving into today. I've outlined all of the steps I took in order to even begin making transformation in this bathroom, because I know that some of you are ready to take action. Some of you are wanting to know, okay, that's fine. I have inspiration. I even know kind of the direction I'm going, but I don't know where to start. And so today, if you have a project like that, or if you've been wanting to get started, today is your day, because I'm going to break down step by step the process I took to redesign this bathroom. And then I'll throw in a couple details specific to the project so that you know exactly what I'm doing. But if you are a design bestie, if you receive my newsletter, you're going to be receiving the picture update so that you can see the work in progress. All right, friend, let's dive in. If you are wanting to update a room in your home, not just the bathroom, any room in your home, these are the steps I would take. They are 10, and I want you to write them down. The very first thing I would do is I would understand my design style. Now, I've already been in tune with this style, and I've been in tune with it for several years. Of course, it ebbs and flows and it grows and changes a little bit, but it hasn't grown or changed so dramatically that I don't know what it was from 3 years ago. Now, for you, if you're not entirely sure what your design style is, that doesn't mean all is lost. You can learn your design style. In fact, I highly encourage you to do that. Go back and listen to episode number 238 and 265, where I walk you through how to learn your design style. And of course, you guessed it, it is inside of the collective as well. But friend, I can't emphasize enough how critical this is for creating spaces that are cohesive, that ultimately end up looking cozy, that reflect your style, of course, and that don't end up looking like you have a home full of a patchwork quilt. Room by room is different entirely. But one of the best byproducts of understanding your style is that you stop wasting money, you stop wasting time, and you grow in confidence. You go to a store and you now don't stand in confusion or overwhelm or even frustration at the lack of either know-how or the idea of how do I choose when I have so many choices in front of me, or I like this, but I bring it home and it doesn't quite work. You eliminate all of that because you learn the tools that you need in order to identify the things that you gravitate to over and over again. And those things are the foundation of your style. Okay, so that is step number 1. And I highly encourage you, when you are ready, to start there. But step 2 is to address your limitations. And I had to do this in a very big way in my bathroom. Now, my limitations, of course, are understanding here is my style and kind of here's an overall goal where I'm headed. Here's the vision I have. One of those limitations, of course, is determining, can I do this work myself? The goal that I have, can I work on it myself? That was the easy part. Yes, I could put up the board and batten, I could paint, I could hang the wallpaper, I could change the light fixture, I could do all of those things. That wasn't my limitation. Specifically for me in this bathroom, the limitation was the vanity. The vanity has been an eyesore for a long time. It's a little bit dated. It was a early 2000s style put in when the home was built, and it was fine. Fine with an asterisk, meaning it is not currently up to date, but it was fine. It really was. If I had the paint on the walls and the flooring, and it would have been fine. But the vanity countertop itself has long been not in my style. Browns and blacks and speckles. And I was placating it by painting the base and then painting the wall, and I changed the flooring. But the vanity itself was the problem. Okay, easy fix. I could just get a new vanity top. The vanity itself was fine. It wasn't freestanding. It was nestled up against the wall. But the vanity countertop, or the countertop, needed to be updated. It was an easy enough fix in my mind until I realized that my vanity was a non-conformist size. Conformity would have said 30 inches, 36 inches, and mine was something ridiculous like 34.1 or something like that. And so it meant that I couldn't just go to Lowe's or Home Depot and keep on budget and get a white inner mount sink. I couldn't do that. I had to either replace the entire thing, which upped the price, or I had to get a new countertop, which upped the price. Of course, adding the faucet, the sink, all the things with it ups that price. And that was my limitation. And that limitation, friend, had me stuck, I kid you not, for 3 years. Because 3 years ago, I decided that I was going to redo the flooring. I was going to address this issue in my home. I changed the flooring. I knew straight away it was part of my aesthetic. I was going to paint the walls. As I started painting the walls, that bully, that vanity, stopped me in my tracks. Because I realized then that what I would be doing would be putting lipstick on a pig. Quite literally. I didn't like it. I never would like it. It was out of style. It was going to be getting more out of style as the years went on. And I needed to do something other than just paint the surround. I needed to address the vanity. That was my limitation. So my question for you here is, what is your limitation? Is your limitation decision making? Is your limitation the budget? Is your limitation not knowing if you have the skills in order to do any of the work yourself, or not knowing who to hire? Is your limitation not knowing if your style or the idea you have is in alignment with the rest of your home? Or maybe you're questioning, do you have the patchwork quilt-like home right now and you want to address the bigger issue? Whatever it is, I do want you to sit with the limitation for a minute. Because once you can finally ask yourself the right questions, how much does it matter to you? how much is it worth saving a little bit each month in order to afford the thing, it becomes more clear. And for me, I sat on that decision for an embarrassingly long 3 years. And determining, and this is only for you to determine, how much of that bully or that limitation is going to continue standing in your way and what you can do to remediate that. Of course, I'm happy to help with that. If you come inside the collective or hire me for a decorating SOS call, I'm happy to help you with that. There are solutions to these problems. But once I addressed that vanity had to go, I was able to hyper-focus the next set of ideas, and that was making a plan. Notice I did not say go out and buy the thing. I did not say go out and dust off my credit card. Go out and practice my credit card swiping muscles. That is not what I'm doing. When you are trying to redecorate or refresh a space, in my case remodel, because I will tell you what I'm doing in my bathroom, one of the worst things that you can do first is to purchase. So put your credit card away and now focus on making a plan. One of the things I would encourage you to do is gather an inspiration photo. Now, be careful here because the inspiration photo is going to be more of a guide and way less of a blueprint. This is not a step-by-step action plan for you in order to recreate your space with every single item that you see in that picture. This is just an inspiration. This gives you the end goal in mind, and it helps you. If you understand your style, it helps you solidify the teeny tiny design elements that you've identified as part of your style, and it helps you put it into a full picture so that you can start then ideating and creating the end goal. And once you have that end goal, then we can start moving backwards. Now, I skipped that step because my design style is pretty innate at this point. It's pretty intuitive. So I went right to creating a mood board. And that mood board took products that I wanted, colors I wanted, ideas of wallpaper I wanted, faucet sinks, lighting, you name it, all of the different products I wanted, and it put it into one little template for me, a picture for me, so that I could see, ooh, do I like that wallpaper with that color of vanity? Oh, do I like that color of vanity with the flooring I currently have because the flooring wasn't going to be changed? Ooh, do I like that light fixture? You get the idea. When you can take product specific and put it on a page together to make a graphic, you can do this, by the way, on a Word document or a free Canva account. You can now start manipulating these items to see, do I really like these ideas together in my space? And do they directly tie back to my design style? If they don't, they should not be on your page. After I had a clear vision of my plan, step number 5, I plugged my plan into my redecorating roadmap. Now, this is a tool I use all the time with clients, but it's a tool that is literally from point A to point Z kind of a roadmap. That's why it's called that. And it gives me the idea of what I need to do first that is going to make the biggest impact change in my space. And some of the things I might not need to do. Now, in the case of my bathroom, I need to do pretty much all of it. I'm changing the wall texture, the wall treatment, the wallpaper, the lighting. I'm pretty much changing everything. I am not getting the toilet or the shower, but everything else is a redo. That, friends, is a remodel, right? It is not just a refresh. For you doing a refresh, you are still going to want to use something like a redecorating roadmap where you prioritize the items, the things to do that make the biggest impact first. Notice I'm not saying set your budget. You have an idea. You have an idea of what the budget's going to be. Now, we are going to get to the money in just a minute, but what I want you to think about first is the action steps that are going to create the biggest impact change, that are going to make the biggest bang for your buck first, in order to reach that end goal, that inspiration photo, that mood board you just created. And we're going to work along that roadmap in order to determine what things need to happen first, and then second, and then third. And once you have an idea of those things, then you put your budget into place. You align your budget with the items of priority. If I only have $500 to refresh my room, I want to start with the biggest impact thing first. And if that biggest impact thing only cost me $75, fantastic. I have room to move on my roadmap in order to do the next biggest impact thing. Not just anything I want to do in my room for the refresh, but the biggest impact thing. Now, friend, here's the thing. Knowing what the biggest impact thing is, that's on my redecorating roadmap. You can access that inside of the collective. It is there for you to use, and it is a resource that is so incredibly powerful. But what happens if you do all of the high impact, the biggest impact changes, and you've now reached your $500 on the roadmap? Great. You stop and you save. You stop and you save. Maybe it's 2 months, maybe it's 1 month, maybe it's 2 weeks. I have no idea. That is flexible to you and your finances. But because you have plugged all of the action steps into your redecorating roadmap, you know what you need to save for, how much you need to save in order to do the next step. The redecorating roadmap is literally the answer to the question, what do I do first? Do I buy the couch or do I paint the wall? What do I do first? Do I change the size of the area rug or do I change the chandelier? It is literally the answer to that question, and something I wish I would have had when I was redecorating my very first home, because it just saves you headache, it saves you time, it saves you the hassle of buying and returning, or gosh, even worse, the hassle of buying the wrong thing and then being stuck with that wrong thing because it's now too big or it was too expensive. The fifth thing I am doing is I am reminding myself to pace. I'm reminding myself that everything does not need to be purchased at one time, that the redecorating roadmap is a tool that I'm going to be using and utilizing in order to understand what changes need to be made and where I need to stop and save. And friend, if you're not inside of the collective and don't have the redecorating roadmap, well, come and join us. There's so much goodness inside of this membership that teaches you the tool and gives you the tools that you need in order to reach your home goals. But if you don't have that, you can create your own. You can write down the things that you think are the biggest impact. If you want certainty, come inside the collective. But you can definitely do it on your own, writing down the things that you think might make a big impact, the things that you think that might need to be done, and the budget that is associated with them, knowing that you need to stop and save every once in a while along the destination. But reminding yourself, whether you have access to the redecorating roadmap or not, reminding yourself that this is a process and that it doesn't necessarily need to or should be done in a weekend. Remembering that a curated space takes time and a well-designed space isn't rushed. Slow decorating is key here. Now, you might be wondering about my 3-week timeline for this bathroom. And that's okay, because even though I am now in action mode, I am actively doing the things on my plan, I have been slow decorating and sitting with, remember the limitation at the very beginning, for 3 years. So even though it appears now I'm taking really quick action, it is only because I am now in sprint mode. Whereas before, I was pacing myself. I was trying to come up with solutions. I was ideating. And now it's go time, which is number 6. Step number 6 is install as things come in. Because you have identified the things that are going to be the biggest impact in your room that you're refreshing, install as they come in. Let the changes speak to you and your room and the overall vision you have, and let it linger a little bit. One of the things I mention with my clients is there are times when we're working on a room and we have the goal in mind and we've done some of these steps, but the idea of quick action, I will oftentimes say, I don't want to do that quite yet because I want to see how change 1, change 2, change 3 are going to happen and affect your room before we decide on that. So we're going to sit there. And what I want to encourage you in that moment is that it is not a matter of being indecisive. It is actually strengthening your resolve here. Because when you can see the affected changes of your overall plan, when you can start seeing them come to light and fruition, then you can start seeing things that might not need to be done. That's money that might not need to be spent anymore because you've painted, or you have changed the layout, or you have added curtains, or you have whatever the thing is, the change is. I've given this example several times, but it is so incredibly powerful and true. When I was redecorating and redoing my boys' bathroom, it was not a remodel. It was a surface decorating where I painted the cabinets, I put up some shiplap, I changed the mirrors, I changed the lighting, I did some things that were very surfacey, and I also painted. Now, before I painted, I was determined to change the flooring. The laminate flooring that came with the house was fine. It was a little outdated, but it was fine. But I thought, if I'm going to be painting the wall, I might as well change the floor. Well, I have 3 boys, and 3 boys, we know what they do when they go to the bathroom. Sometimes they miss. And I didn't want to spend a lot of money now when they were, or then they were little and really not great at aiming at the point. They were 6 and 8 and 10. And I didn't necessarily want to change with a very expensive remodel. And so I started with the paint, changing the walls from a really fun, playful, very toddler green to something a little bit more subtle. Is the room colorful? You better bet it is. It is colorful in the things and the accessories I've brought in, not necessarily the wall. But the wall color changed the landscape of the floor, which saved me hundreds or thousands of dollars. That is my point here. Taking one step at a time and installing that one step at a time so you can see the affected change and how it now helps you read the room in a different way before you take the next action step. And that is the joy, and that is the goodness of slow decorating with a plan, decorating with an end goal, using a roadmap, one that you create or you use, the tool you use within the collective. That is the goal, is take it slow and enjoy the process. Number 7 is to repeat, rinse and repeat. Refer back to that plan, refer back to your vision, refer back to the budget, stop and save when you need to, and continue installing until you have the project that is done. And number 8, we are going to revel, we are going to delight, we are going to exclaim, we did this, we did it. It was our idea. We went through the entire process. We started with understanding our aesthetic, understanding the limitations that have been keeping us stuck and addressing those head on. We have created a plan, a visual mood board. We've plugged in this step-by-step plan according to biggest impact. We've aligned our budget with that plan, and we have made transformation over time in order to bring this space to fruition. Friend, this is one of the best steps you can do, is to delight in the work that you just did, because it was hard work. It was slow work. It was sometimes at times frustrating work, but you did it. Step 9 is to buckle up, because that empowerment is going to make it so that you are wanting to redo the next space. When you have that first domino tip, it now creates a ripple effect that says, not only do I love this space, it is now my favorite room in the house. Can I have the bathroom be the favorite room in the house? Yes, you absolutely can. It can, until you go through this step, the next process, to do this over again in the next room you want to redo. And that is step 10. Continue on that domino. Continue on with your empowering yourself with the knowledge, the tools, and the skill set in order to create that space that you delight in. The space that says, I can host an event like a graduation. I can host an event like Thanksgiving. I can invite my friends over for dinner and not feel embarrassed in my own home. I can host that small group at my church or for my church. I can do that because I don't feel the limitations of my home anymore. I don't feel that. Friend, if you want the details of my bathroom remodel and the steps I'm taking in order to transform it from something that was a little dated to something that I will delight in and will likely become my favorite room in the home, all on a budget, definitely, and all on a timeline, come and be a design bestie. If you don't receive my newsletter, I want you to. You can do that by going to bit.ly/design bestie. I'll include that link and the link to join the collective inside of my show notes. All right, friend, until next time, know that you have a real mom with a real home and a real budget hanging out over here, rooting you on and cheering you on as you decide what is best for you and your home, creating spaces that you delight in, that you cherish, and that are a reflection of you. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Hey, real quick before you go, if you learned something new or found value in today's podcast, would you head over to iTunes to Fig and Farm at Home and leave a review and subscribe to the show? That would be awesome. And if you'd like to connect with my community of mamas who are learning to be intentional storytellers within their own homes, join us at bit.ly/design101 group. There's always more room at the table. See you soon.